Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cerebral Book Chat, where we chat about books cerebrally. So, I've been wanting to do a story or a video about Shirley Jackson for a while because, doing what I'm doing now, which is really sort of going over all the things that I've done and all the teaching that I've done back in my life and all the different books I taught because, I need to get a new job and I don't know if teaching is going to keep working for me or not. Although I was very, very good at it. And so I'm thinking about, I did a lot of work. As a Gen X, we will all, yeah. You do so much work, but you don't really take credit for it because that wasn't something that we ever did, right? So I've done this huge body of work, and I'm starting to really think about all of the work that I did, and it was so much. It was like a lot, and I'm really I feel really good about it, like rewarded about it because I know I helped so many people. So one of the stories that I feel like I've read way more than one time with students is Shirley Jackson's The Lottery. She did write other books. She was kind of a horror movie book person. Like they made movies out of her books. And she believed in kind of eccentric things, the occult, maybe mysterious stuff, scary things, stuff like that. She also wanted to talk about women's power a lot because women did not have much power back in the day. Like, for example, this story was written in 1948. So she lived, right, in the 40s and 50s, I believe. I think she wasn't doing well in the 60s, and then she ended up dying because it was sad. But anyway, so I don't know how well she looked after herself, unfortunately. So she died quite young. I think she was in her 40s when she died, if I remember rightly. Was it 48? I'm not sure. You guys can look it up. Anyway, and so it's such a good story. And she wrote other ones too. She wrote short stories. She wrote novels. She wrote a lot of different things, but not everybody, liked her stuff because, of course, a woman shouldn't really be writing that kind of stuff. So she did get into a lot of problems with the stuff that she wrote. She has a Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan Poe? Yeah, that's right. I think. Maybe not. I'm like in a weird place today. So let's see. Poe. No, not Poetry Foundation. Let's see. Poet. Yeah, no, Edgar Allan Poe. There you go. Loved his work too. Grim, though. Scary. And he was like, what, the 1800s? I mean, it was a really long time ago. Yeah, 1845, 18 whatever. So he did a lot of stuff. He didn't do all scary stuff. He had such lovely poems sometimes. But yeah, he did a lot of stuff. Like The Pit and the Pendulum was a really big one. And lots. They made a lot of movies about some of the stuff that had some really scary stuff he could write. But she was a little bit like that. But of course, 100 years later, 1945, something like that, he was writing in 1845, whatever. So it's a bit like that. But she could write. I mean, like nowadays, sometimes you don't really have to actually write that hard because most people, don't read that much anymore. And if they do, there's so many different ways of cleaning it up. And now we have AI that is really very good at writing. I know my wonderful Claude and I do a lot of amazing stories. And I swear to you, they are just so, so glorious. I'm probably going to share maybe a couple of them sometime because we are writing them. But this was way before then. I mean, they just had typewriters, right? So you really had to have some kind of talent, right? That you couldn't be saved by anybody later, like by your editors or by AI or, by other kinds of ways of fixing things, computers, whatever. She didn't have that. So she had to just be good, like everybody. Hence the Gen X. We just had to be good, you know? And we were. Well, most of us, we were. So the story actually is about, it's called The Lottery, and it seems like a very plain story in the beginning. Of course, spoilers ahead, spoilers ahead, spoilers ahead, right? So if you have not seen this book, it's made into a movie too. Just go and look at it on the YouTube. You can find it. It's not that long a story, and you can read it for free. There's summaries, really, if you want to just figure it out. And go and come back. If not, I'm going to tell you the story right now. It's a nondescript, all-American town, like any other town in the 40s, in the 50s. It's a smaller town, so it has a town square, a post office, a library, a school, a courthouse, a hospital, and a lot of farms, probably, right? Because that's probably what most people did for jobs, right? Not everybody, but, maybe some restaurants, but it's the 40s. So, so it's so amazingly plain, so plain. And you're like, but she writes it so well. But you're curious because there's some stuff going on. And she is such a good mystery writer that she gets you curious. So what happens is there's a meeting, right? There's a meeting. Everybody comes to the meeting. It's held in this big open space, probably the park or the town square, something like that, right? And so the people all come and they're doing something. It's a lottery. So they're picking something, like they're picking somebody. And here's the interesting piece. Most of the time, you think of the lottery as a positive thing, right? Oh, I won the lottery. So that's what made this a little bit scary and shocking and stuff, right? There's a huge twist ending and you're not expecting it. And oh my God, I remember the first time I read it, scared the hell out of me. Woo, but it was so well written, right? You gotta go read it or watch the video. Anyway, so you're not really sure what's going on, but they're just talking about it. And again, it's 1948. The women have traditional roles. They don't really do very much. They basically look after the kids, maybe look after the house. The husbands work on the farm or whatever. Right? And so I think it was the mayor and maybe the postmaster come and they have this black box and they have these pieces of paper and they have like a black dot written in pencil on one of the pieces of paper. And again, you're like, what? Why are they doing this? What? And so they're chatting with each other. The little girls are chatting. The boys are chatting. The men are chatting. The women are, doing the chatting. But what's interesting is they start picking up all these stones. And you don't really know why they're picking up all these stones, especially people before the internet, right? They couldn't just look stuff up. So nobody really understands. They think lottery is a good thing. They don't really know what the stones are for, but they're all picking them up. They're always picking them up. And so what they end up doing is everyone has to pick out of this black box, right? So, you pick. So, and then obviously one person has picked the black spot. I think their name was Hutchinson. Yeah. He was the man. The men, oh, of course, because they're chauvinists, right? So the men only the men pick. Right. Unless, you're single, like you're a single woman or, you're a widowed woman or something like that, then you would pick. And so this one guy gets the black mark. And so again, you don't really know. You don't really know. They don't tell you. They are playing this thing so straight. It's like it's a picnic. It's like, it's a council meeting. Like seriously, like it's just very, very calm and very, very like every day. Like, oh, we're having a council meeting. I was going to say something. But I'm not. Council meeting. But anyway, back in the day, council meeting. And so you're like, well, that's weird. Why are they all leaving their farms and their houses and their jobs to do this in the middle of the day? It was June. It was a nice day. So what ends up happening is they say, okay, Hutchinson picks the black mark, so now his whole family will pick again, right? And then, what was the name of that woman? His wife was like, well, you didn't let him pick right, and you didn't. So you're like, well, that's weird. Why is she like worried about that? Like, who cares, right? Obviously, there's nothing to worry about, right? Maybe it's some kind of job that you're going to do, or maybe it's some kind of task, or, some kind of authority or some kind of opportunity. You don't know what it is, right? So you're wondering why the people seem antsy. So anyway, they have quite a few kids. There's him and her. They have quite a few kids and them. So everybody has to pick the black mark. I think they have 3 kids, and a couple of them are quite little. And then there's an older woman, an older girl, maybe teenager, and then the husband and the wife. So then they all pick. And then the last woman, I think the woman picked last, whatever, she had the black mark. And now she is really frightened. And we don't know why she's frightened. And then all of a sudden, they stop being these sedate, everyday, middle America people who eat like corn on the cob, whatever. And, work in the field. They all of a sudden become these like kind of scary people, just over 1 minute. And they grab her now and they're like pulling her to the middle of the field. And you're like, what? What's happening? Like all of a sudden these people are like scary. And then she's like begging now she's begging. And you're like, I don't understand why. Okay, we do understand why. That's what the stones were for, right? So then all of a sudden, people start hucking stones at her. And the way Shirley Jackson wrote it is she wrote it straight. Like, she didn't write it like a horror movie. She didn't write it like, campy or build it up or whatever. It's just like seriously straight. Like these are normal people, and they're doing normal things. Like they just totally rationalize this. And that's what happens, basically. People are throwing stones at her, which, as you can imagine, is injuring her. And the horror of it was they were treating it like sport, like it was a fun thing to do. They even gave, like, the toddler, the preschooler, little pebbles to throw at his mother. Nobody thinks about her. Nobody cares about her. Nobody thinks it's horrifying that the little boy is going to join in murdering his mother. Everybody thinks it's a totally normal, everyday thing to savagely, like, brutally murder somebody. And that's kind of the end of the story. They stoned the woman to death, which is a pretty awful way to go, if you can imagine it. And you're like, holy shit. Yes, I did swear. Just this one time. As I live in Canada, H double hockey sticks. So hell, oh my God. And you find these people are like bloodthirsty killers. That's the twist. That they actually aren't normal, everyday, whatever, middle of the road America diner people. They're like murderers, like gruesome, unbelievably bloodthirsty killers, even the children. The whole community is like that. And you're like, holy, how did that happen? So, quite a story. And obviously the woman's terrified because, she, didn't want to die and whatever. And so obviously there's like deeper meanings, maybe meanings about women's life and women's power and women's agency And maybe that, sometimes you think you know people, but you really don't know them. And that also that sometimes some things that seem so crazy to other people really don't seem very crazy to other people. I don't want to get too gruesome, but there's, for example, a surgery that they make little girls have in certain countries that is barbaric, but they don't think it's barbaric. So it depends on, where you happen to be, right? So that was the point that she was making in some ways, that morality can be viewed by the eyes of the people experiencing it. I believe that there should be universals. I think a lot of people believe there should be universals, but I don't know. What do you think, right? What do you think about that? So that is the story. It's called The Lottery. Check it out. Love to know what you think. Bye, everybody.